All right, well, welcome. This is a virtual town hall meeting that Happy Tales Humane Society is hosting. And we have the group Project Humane Polo with us. And we are going to be talking about cats and animals. And we want to inform the Polo community and anybody that has been following the cat situation that's been happening in that community. We have Cheryl, Ashley, and Pam. And then I'm Mark Razzo. I'm the president of Happy Tales, and we all came together because we cared, and we have lots of information that we can go over that we want to share with the community. So I think where I wanted to start was, let's go before this group went to the Polo City Council, and there was an article in the paper that had said about they changed how many animals you could have in Polo. That was one of them. And then they also changed what did it mean to be an owner, and what the ordinance that was passed said was after 3 days of caring for an animal, harboring an animal, you were the owner. And then, you know, I'm assuming the idea was, okay, if you had 6 cats and you after 3 days were taking care of them, well, then you would be violating the city ordinance, and then they could cite you for that. Is that how that's how I took it. Is that how you guys took that?
Yeah.
Okay. Except then you get into ownership, and then that can get very complicated, because what if a cat shows up in your backyard and you feed it, then it takes off, runs away, comes back 3 days later, and you had some food out there and you fed it, and then it took off again. And then how do you define these 3 days that you're doing that? So then the conversation, this started a conversation with the community, and then also the number of animals, and that disrupted the community. You guys were telling me that some dogs were left.
Yeah, there was a dog that was tied to somebody's front porch. Kittens were dropped off, I believe, the next day at the Polo Animal Shelter. I think there was 12 of them.
Yep, 12 of them.
And then people just started dumping their cats, out in the cornfields.
Because nobody had any notice. It was
Right.
just taped on the door of the city hall the next day. Nobody knew anything about it. And somebody saw it and everybody panicked. There was no lead up to it or anything.
So we went through the media, and in January they were talking about this, and then was it passed in the summertime?
Yes.
And then it became effective was it August or September?
I believe it was passed in July.
Oh, July, okay.
Yeah. And then according to the city council, it went into effect the next day.
Okay.
Correct. The chief of police was at my door the next day with the copy of the ordinance.
Okay, because in Whiteside, when they do an ordinance, what they do, it doesn't matter when it's passed during the year, they typically wait till January 1st to give the community plenty of time to know about that, educate them before they implement that. And so Polo had a different approach, and this is what they ended up doing. And then this caught a lot of people off guard, didn't it? When they did that, they did not know, They did not have notice of that. And it was not in the local paper. We found that out, that there was no article in the local paper to inform them. So then there was a meeting, a city council meeting, because Ashley, you were there, right?
Yeah, I went because I was concerned, because I foster kittens for animal shelters, and in my household I have 1 cat. My mom has 3 cats. There's the 4 animals, and I thought, am I going to get in trouble for doing, going and fostering temporarily these kittens until they're old enough to be adopted at an animal shelter? So I went to see, like, what does all this entail? Like, what is this all about? We were just very concerned.
Yeah, and that was a concern for the community, those that were trying to help solve the problem, which all 3 of you have done that. And so the way it was being written, it was penalizing anybody, you know, when you look at it, it was penalizing anybody who was trying to help the cats. And so then there was a post. Was there an article? Because I know there was a lot of conversation at that meeting, and it got heated. I didn't go to that. I wasn't at that particular meeting, but then there was an article in the paper afterwards about it. And then that's when there was a post on social media. And then Ashley, that's when you were asking.
There was an article in the newspaper, and I said, there's got to be a more humane solution to what the council is suggesting. There's got to be a solution to, all these, stray cats in town. I'm like, does anybody want to help me start a trap, neuter, return program? Because, nobody really mentioned that at the meeting.
And
I
then,
don't know.
you sound the alarm, and then I saw that, and some other people saw that.
Yep.
So then I reached out to you, because in Whiteside we have a TNR program, and I believe it was 2018 when that happened, and we've had that, and then there was, we'll talk more about it, but then Sterling also had passed an ordinance about feeding, and because they were having some wildlife issues, and we worked with them to make a humane ordinance. Now, we didn't agree with everything in the ordinance, but we compromised, and it was humane, and it solved the city's problems, and it took care of what we were doing as well. And we'll dig a little more into that. So I reached out to Ashley, and then, in a nutshell, Project Humane was born. And I was just looking through notes. It said there's like 98 people that were on your social media. Now you're up to over 200 that are on there, and it's pretty local. Really, when you look at it, it's pretty local. So this is a topic that people are passionate about, and they agree that whatever the problems are, it should be done humanely. We need humane solutions. So we started meeting, and I had only been to Polo a few times, I think, prior to that meeting. So I learned a lot about Polo, and then I also knew that Happy Tales was very much intertwined with Polo. We have employees, we have volunteers, we have donors, we have people that use our clinic and our other resources, and so we are very much a part of the Polo community, and have been for quite some time. And so we had our resources, and we wanted to put them together. And then so as a group, we started talking, because we've already done TNR, and we were trying to figure out what were the issues that the city council was facing to help them resolve those and come up with some humane solutions. And so we did that. We came up with, we had talked about TNR, how TNR could be funded, how that could take care of the community. We asked how many cats were running around. That was a good one. How many cats are we actually talking about? And so we used a couple of different models, same thing that Whiteside used. When Whiteside used a model, is based on population, and so they said, well, there's 19,000 cats running around in Whiteside County. For Polo, we were using similar models, and we came up with one that said 1,500, and we came up with one that said 500. And we as a group, we felt the 500 was more of the realistic number of the cats, probably the cats you can see. And then it gets into feral cats, community cats, and companion cats. And because you have some distinction there with all three. Feral cats you typically don't see at all. They cannot be handled, and they don't want to be around humans at all. If you're seeing them, then they are community cats, because they over time you can feed them, and they're going to come to you, and that's where people have that human animal bond, and that's why this is a hot topic for them, because they can do that. They're gonna take care of them. And so those are kind of the distinctions. And then of course companion would be typically they're in your home, or they're under your control. I know some people let them go outside, but companion animals are under the owner's control. And so then we were trying to figure out what was the problem. So then we wanted to know, well, how many complaints were there? Because we were hearing, well, it's nuisance. So that's why they came up with this. And so we started doing some digging and we were asking, and then we came up with 4 written complaints. And that's all we could find. It was 1 for the city and 3 for the police department. And that was it. That's all we could find. And that was the basis, according to the city council, of why they needed to address the cats. And so then they had passed, am I getting this right? Because then they passed the 4 pet limit, and then they also passed what was an owner with that. And then the discussion too came up about poop, and that was part of the nuisance, cats pooping in someone's yard. And there's argument going back and forth about, well, being a farm community, it's a farm community. And there is a distinction that cats are not wildlife. So you cannot regulate cats as wildlife. They're under the Department of Agriculture. All wildlife would be under DNR. And so there's a distinction and there's a difference there in how you approach. And so as a group, TNR would be the option. TNR would be a solution. TNR reduces the cat population over time. And the idea is it's going to reduce those nuisance issues as well. So we came up with that plan, and then Cheryl got, well, I think it was already on the city council agenda, and then Cheryl had presented that, and we were there. So I'm gonna pull up the PowerPoint here. And so this is a collaboration with Happy Tails and Humane Polo, because we also vet services, and we have, of course, capacity to take, in a TNR program, we would take kittens. Otherwise, cats that are community cats would be relocated, or in a formal program, you would put them back where you had picked them up, and you would have them spay or neutered. So I won't read all of this, but this is what we came up with. We wanted to create a humane community, inspire compassion, providing hope, and advancing the animal welfare issues. Bridging relationships between citizens and the city government stakeholders to create a more humane polo, and that is what the project is. That's the goal, is to make a more humane polo. So we wanted to one of those some of those goals was to reduce the community cat population, and that it is through TNR. TNR is science-based. TNR can be measured. You're microchipping the cats. When you put them back, you know the population that's there, and you can track that. And then, typically cats that are free roaming over 3 years, they that's their life expectancy is 3 years. And so then the population dwindles down. In Whiteside County, we have seen a decrease in kittens, very sick kittens coming in to the shelter. In fact, when we're seeing high numbers, it is because we have hoarding issues here, and so that's what we're seeing. But the way that our county ordinance is written, some people are self-reporting, and they're letting animal control know, look, I'm out of, I'm out of resources, and this is getting out of hand. So they report, and then we work together to help solve those and give the cats humane solutions and good outcomes. So feeding, we talked about feeding and the feeding ordinance, because that was also something that was brought up. And actually right now I'm getting ahead, but that is something that the Polo City Council is looking at right now, is the feeding part of it. And so this is actually Sterling's feeding ordinance. And this is what Happy Tails had worked on with them. And it was a different process, because the conversations that we're having with the city council, we were able to have that with Sterling, and it was in informal meetings with not the whole city council, but just some of them with the city. Same thing with Whiteside. Whiteside, we went to committee, and we talked through these things before we had redone the animal ordinances, and before we revamped quite a bit, but TNR was also added to that. And so in this one, and I don't think the City Council of Polo is considering this at all, as far as I know, unless you guys know something. What it talks about here is using containers and not leaving food out, and you do it no longer than 30 minutes. And it says, it's a guidance about doing daylight hours instead of nighttime, because that's the idea, is that you could be attracting wildlife, which was an issue in Sterling. And so this was something, this is the presentation that Cyril gave to Polo City Council, and this was a solution to that, but I don't believe it was ever considered.
No.
It was brought to their attention, but that was about it. And then it just goes on into some more details. It talks about not feeding on somebody else's property, not putting food out on somebody else's property without their permission. Parks and state, city, federal properties, this is saying not to feed on those areas. And then it just goes into some more detail about how to do that. And in a nutshell, it was, you have a container, it has a lid on it, you do it for 30 minutes, and then you take the container away, and then you can do it twice a day. You would be feeding them, and they'll get on a schedule if you do that. For us, like I said, it was a compromise, because when you have an ordinance like this, a feeding ordinance, it is very difficult to cite people for that. It's very difficult to do that. And I can get into the details of how somebody can get around that. I'm not going to do that, but because of that, if you want a really good ordinance, I think there's some other options that Polo could look at.
Right, because after the presentation, they still were stuck on, they wanted everybody in town to just quit feeding cats outside, period.
Yeah.
So they didn't address it. And now here months later, they want to address it.
Yeah. Yep. And then it talks about cats defecating. We knew this was something that kept coming up, and then they were saying they were having nuisance reports of nuisance issues. And this was our explanation of what TNR can do. You have to reduce the cat population, and it's a nasty cycle when they keep reproducing. And so not everybody can afford to pick them up and go get them altered. And so this was a program to be able to do that. And it was a program to measure that. You can, when we were looking at the nuisances, the group wanted to know, where was this at? What areas of the town was it at, to take the resources and go to those areas and start prioritizing what the issues were. But then we only found that there were only 4 that once we're looking at reports. So now you're left up to the citizens to report that, and to that's it. There's nothing documented beyond that to kind of paint that picture of the cat problem. And then we also had talked, these are humane solutions. I do remember one alderman saying, why do we have to spend money on doing that? Well, if you want to be a humane community, these are alternatives that you can do to keep the cats out of your yard. And then there was a conversation about there's yard like cat boxes that can be made, and that works for some people that have cats that are okay with cats being in their backyard. And then we talked about more about how it worked. Project Humane Polo would be the one that the public could contact if there was a formal TNR program. They could contact you, and then there's 2 paths. Some people could self-fund their cats. Others, if they needed funding, the project could look at that. The project has been taking donations, And then working with Happy Tails, we have the vet services, Happy Tails, and I remember in the paper, this was need to be clarified that there was $32. Well, $32 was valued for the microchip and for the rabies vaccine, which is what we provide for the cats in the program. And then it's 75 for female, and I believe it's 50 or 55 for male cats. And then they have to be ear tipped. They have to have a microchip. Those are required by law, and a rabies vaccine. Of course, if they're sick, we'll go beyond that, and we'll take care of them. Whatever's going on, we'll also take care of that as well. So now in the TNR program, these cats that are running around now, they're inoculated against rabies. And then these are some other items that were brought up, but they weren't addressed. The group, not only the group, but this is the public. This is the Polo citizens that were saying, because they were told they were being grandfathered in with that limit of animals, but it wasn't put formally or amended to the animal ordinance that was passed. And so people have questions about that. It was a presentation to approve the TNR program, allow the feeding of animals under the sample ordinance that we gave. And so none of that happened, as we'll further discuss. None of that actually happened. And then the nuisance issues, this is where, so TNR was denied because of liability. And TNR, if that's the case, Whiteside County has it, Cook County has it, Rochelle has it. There's others that have it, and it's not a liability issue for them. Now, in trying to determine what were the issues that the city council was trying to address, we knew nuisance. And so what the group had said, and I don't think everybody got this in the city council, it wasn't that the group was going to take over the nuisance issues. The group was a resource if there was a nuisance issue that the Polo police, who are also animal control, could go to, which that is something that the city did agree to, that the project could be that resource, but they did not approve TNR because they said it was a liability for them. So let me, there was also a handout that came with this, and I'll share that. Maybe I will. Okay, well, it's not coming up. There was a handout that we gave out, and in that handout, it talked about what the law was for Illinois. And so basically it says that if a municipality, city, county, or if a government approves TNR, there is no liability. There's no civil or criminal, unless you intentionally were hurting animals. Then, which is, they put that in for a lot of things. Then there would be liability. But clearly, Whiteside has TNR. So that issue was brought up. That issue was researched, and it was determined that they could move forward, and they did, along with Rochelle, and like I said, there's others that also did that. So TNR was denied at that time, but then the city said the project could go ahead and continue, which the project has been doing. So the other thing is, so what's the difference between a formal TNR and a TNR program that isn't formal? So because it's not formal, you can't get grants, which was something we wanted to look at. The county has funding that could fund that if there was a formal TNR program. If the city said Polo is going to have that, it's possible that the county would have that. Protections for cats. The protections for the cats are because they're microchipped and TNR would be tracking where they're at. Then if they were picked up presumably by animal control, they could be put back. Although my understanding is Ogle County does not do anything with cats. Now Whiteside, they do. And so what it did for Whiteside, it allowed them to take those cats and put them back where they were supposed to go based on their microchip. And then it was also easier to prosecute animal cruelty if somebody was being cruel to a TNR cat, because they were in that program. And it was easy to identify them. And so those are kind of the differences that are there. And so that's where we're at right now. So then moving on, now we had another city council meeting, and it was on the agenda that the feeding was one of them. And then I'm assuming this was prompted because there was a newspaper article about housing that the project had made. And the project was giving those out, and it was very well received by the community. There was a lot of people that looked like were involved with that. And they even got very kind of MacGyverish, because they came up with some really good stuff with how to do that. And it's a model for others to be able to make those out of the Rubbermaid type containers. And so now they want to, at the last meeting, there was a lot of discussion, and these discussions are heated, and they are documented, and they are on it's the Facebook Polo, Project Humane Polo, right? That's where they're at right now. Okay.
Yep, the public Project Humane Polo page, yes.
So if anybody didn't know, under the Open Meetings Act for Illinois, when you go into a city council meeting, when you go into a county meeting, you have a right to record it, and you don't have to give any notice to that. You can record with any device when you go in there. And Polo doesn't formally, the city council doesn't formally record, because we did ask, but not only this group, but others have attended, and they've also made their recordings. And it's the purpose is to inform those that weren't there, and if they want to know more, they can listen to those. But this has been a heated topic for the city council, and well, you can listen to those and decide yourself who and what is taking part in that. It doesn't have to be that way. I would hope the temperature would come down a little bit on that. I would hope that I would love for the city council to say that they're open to, the start is humane, to be humane, and to say that we know not all the aldermen are on the same page as some others, and there is support there as well. So it's not the entire city council, but I'm throwing that out there. That's information for Polo citizens and anybody who's watching this. And so now they took the housing, they kind of put it on, they settled on that. They're not going to do anything with that right now, but the next city council meeting, they are going to be talking about feeding. And I think they talked about feeding times. And so we're waiting to see what that's going to look like.
Can I just say, with that, they've yet to contact us to talk about it. Like, we're all experienced dealing with cats, outside cats, inside cats, kittens. What do we think would be humane and compassionate? And we've yet to be notified or asked our opinion.
Yeah.
Nobody even asked about what exactly our intentions were with the winter cat houses. They thought we were just making it, some of them thought we were just making it easier for cats to live the high life on somebody's property and go wherever they want, when really the intention was not only to keep the cats comfortable and warm during the winter, but to keep the cats on the property that they're wanted. So they don't go roaming over to the neighbor's house and sleep in their porch or their garage. That way it keeps them on the property that they are wanted. And but until I actually had a really nice conversation with Troy, one of the aldermen, and he understood when I explained that to him. He understood. So that was a really nice conversation I had with him. But some other aldermen were not happy with that explanation either.
Yeah. Well, and as I had shared with this group, and I've also shared with other city governments that we've worked with, when it comes to housing, as a couple years ago, we had a cold vortex that came through the community, and it was like 50, 60 below zero.
Mhm.
And we gave out about 300 temporary shelters because people don't want to see animals suffer. And at those temperatures, it's tough for them. And so they need to regulate their body heat, and they need to have food. And so we were handing out temporary shelters, and what you have are the Cadillacs of those shelters than what we had at the time, because we had so many. We had to come up. We had to be really innovative, and we're very fortunate because it was local businesses that came forward with the materials for us to hand that out. And so it was temporary housing to get them through that. And we saw we saw many sick animals too from that. Again, it's suffering. And for Whiteside, I've heard for a long time, nobody wants to see animals suffering, but when they do, they want somebody to do something about it. And so who does that? Whose role is that? Well, private charities, volunteer groups are a big role and a big part of that to solving that problem. And when you can do that, it lifts up a community, and it makes the community a place where you really want to be, knowing that if they're taking care of their animals, then they're going to take care of you too. Your neighbors, if they're taking care of animals, they're going to take care of you. If somebody needs something, I don't know of any animal lover that wouldn't help. So it tells you the character of the community when you see that. And so now that's where we are at this time. And part of this was to inform, and we continue to do that. Because of these meetings with the city council, and this isn't a bad thing, actually. This is a very good thing, is that social media is being used by this group. Happy Tales, we use it for messaging, and then in this environment, if we didn't have the COVID event going on, we would be in the community having a big town hall meeting with anybody who has animals, and hearing what their thoughts are on this. Was there any questions that any of you guys had heard in the community that you wanted to share?
One of the big misconceptions that we have heard is that we are going around and picking up any cat we see. That's not the case. When we go out and trap a cat, and we've only trapped one so far, actually trapped one. The other ones we have actually just been able to pick up and find homes for, but actual trapping, we are called by the property owner that has been taking care of that cat. If we come across a cat that we think maybe somebody's pet, we try everything we can to find their owner. We do not just pick up cats and go and trap, neuter, and microchip them and tip them without trying everything we can to find the owner first. And like I said, oh no, go ahead, Cheryl.
And before we even touch that cat, we photograph that cat. We get a picture, we start sending it to everybody we know, we put it on social media before we even touch the cat.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, I was just thinking of some of the questions that people may have, but they're not. They're reluctant to come up, to bring those out. And I was warned about that when I came to Polo at the first city council meeting, that not everybody's comfortable in that environment. And again, the recordings of the council meetings are out there, and you can decide that. I was stunned at the first meeting that I went to, and the second one was better. we did have to, we did do some steps in getting some information, and I think that helped. Well, it helped us get the information that we needed to address the issues that are out there. Although it just seems like they keep coming up as far as, if you get down to 3, and it seems like something else is brought up. But you can take all of it and come back to humane solutions. And I don't think TNR will be passed with this city council. Maybe the community can work on that, or or in the future, if there's changes, maybe there can be some open minds to it. That's the only scientific way that I can see to address these issues as a whole. Otherwise, you can go through Sauk Valley media and you can see the issue has been around for a long time. They're saying they've been talking to cats for 20 years. And so you either do something, you can do nothing. And so then the issues are still there. And it's not going to go away. But that cycle where they're reproducing, that's the key. And so the group has worked on that, and you've done that. And even if you did one, that's an impact. And then on your Facebook page, Keller is a good one. Keller is a blind cat, and I've seen them before. For me, I would have much rather have gotten him before. I'm assuming it was eye infections is what happened, and he wasn't treated because he wasn't owned by anybody. And had he been caught earlier, we might have saved his vision. But he's in a loving home, and he's going to live out.
Yep. He was our first ever rescue when he's become sort of the mascot of our group.
Yep.
We suspect he was dumped. We got a call from a really nice lady who said that he's been roaming around her yard for a while, and we tried to find if he belonged to anybody. We didn't get any responses from that, so we went and took him to Happy Tails, got him treated, and now he's in one of the best homes he could ever be in. So that was our first real big win, and since then we've found homes for, I don't know, Cheryl, you have the you said there was like
9 of them, and then there's still 2 that are in foster homes, Buddy and one that Pam has. We've fostered 2 kittens and got them adopted, and we have reunited a cat from Dixon with its owner that was dumped in Polo, and a cat in Sterling that was dumped in Polo. So
we've had a lot of our group formally formed. Well, our group officially formed August 22nd, and since then we've already done a lot for our community and feral cats, and we plan on continuing to do a whole lot more, finding compassionate solutions, humane solutions, working with the city council. Hopefully, a couple of them change their tune a little bit. Hopefully, one of them makes himself a little bit more approachable, so we can talk things out in a real civil manner. We'd be more than willing to work with them.
Yeah.
Yep.
I have to bring this up because this was something that brought me to this situation as well. And it was our cats safe in Polo, and there was concerns about cats being safe in Polo, and it was coming from different directions. And part of that had to do with heated discussions that had been made that people were wondering, are cats going to be safe? And as this group, we had talked about what the current laws are. And so there is a Humane Care Act, and that is a state law. And actually we've had discussions where before even getting to an ordinance, if you want to enforce the Humane Care Act, that could help solve nuisance issues as well before going the ordinance route. And just like we've looked at it right now too, that it appears that some of these issues that aren't documented are going directly to the city council, and doesn't appear that they're going to Polo Police, who would be animal control. And in Whiteside, we're used to when that happens, or if a city official got a complaint, it would go to animal control, and it would allow animal control, or in this case, Polo, to deal with those cases on an individual basis. And so there's some question about that. Is that happening, or are we, in this situation, is it just going right to the city council and then not, and then they'd already passed this ordinance, and now they're looking at amending it, and then will that happen in the future? And so having this discussion is what is our goal, to give Polo citizens the information that they need to know what's going on and what could affect them, those that have animals.
Right. Also, another misconception is that some people are arguing that if you just stop feeding a cat, they will move out into the country and they'll not be in town anymore. That is simply not the case. If you look at feline behavior, if you cut off a cat's food resource, they're going just to move more into town, where all the dumpsters are, where the people congregate, where the restaurants are. They're going to start foraging. So they're going to become even more of a nuisance if you quit feeding them. So people feeding them on the property that they're wanted is not only a humane solution, but it's also cuts down on the nuisance issues also. And another misconception is that cats can only survive on what they're hunting. That's not true either, especially in the winter months. Winter months, all the mice and rodents are in hiding, so they can't catch them, and cats need to maintain their body mass to regulate their temperature. So it's very inhumane just to cut off a cat's feeding resource when they're used to getting fed at on somebody's property. So going to, putting the amendment in there that people can feed on their property, in a closed, a container with a lid on it, or, certain times a day, not past, like, say, 7 o'clock at night, is the more humane solution than just stop feeding them.
Exactly.
Also, cats, can't survive on rodents alone, but they do cut down the rodent population. So if we got rid of, all the feral cats in town, there's going to be a big spike in rats, mice, voles.
And the snake problem that you currently don't have. You don't have a problem, and that would be why, because the cats.
Yep. So cats are working for us, whether people think so or not.
Well, and it's a balance. And at the first city council meeting, I had mentioned that's what it is. It's a balance. The humans and the animals. You have to have balance there, and you need to have humane solutions to solve it. And this group is willing to go well above and beyond in a nuisance situation if there's cats roaming around, and they absolutely need to be relocated. You guys have offered to help with that. The only stumbling block, which is for everybody, would be funding. Although we know there's ways to help fund a project if it needs to be. If it's just a really difficult situation that somebody's in, this group is willing to help resolve their nuisance issue.
Oh yeah, we've had a lot of very generous donors, and I like to thank them personally right now. Like, the community has really embraced us, and we are so thankful for all our donors, all the support we're getting. Even though we're getting some pushback from some people, the support has definitely outweighed the naysayers, and I think that's just amazing. If we could get recognized as a formal TNR program, then we would have access to grants and other funding, but that's going to be up to the city. We're definitely still working on that.
Yeah. So we will watch, and I know you guys will be there at the next meeting, city council meeting. They're on Zoom, and your group will share when that meeting is. And I think for the city council, after that first meeting, I approached the mayor and the city attorney, and I had said that I'm just a phone call away if there's any discussion, private discussion that they would like to have, if they need my assistance in helping you as well. But I think there needs to be a connection between the people who want the humane solutions and the city council that needs to solve these nuisance issues. There needs to be a happy medium. And you know, I thought we were kind of there, and then it came up with the feeding and well, then the housing really that came up. And so hopefully we're on that path, and we'll see what happens at the next city council meeting. But you know, we'll keep advocating, and certainly Happy Tales will be advocating, and we are the resource as well. And you know, for me, if I don't have an answer, we have a wealth of experts that we can go to get that, because this Polo isn't alone in dealing with cats, but you know, if there's other ideas out there, we're always open to hearing them as well.
And Mark, one of the questions that I have gotten a few times is, well, if you keep advertising your group, you're going to have people dumping more cats in town. Other towns, other cities have TNR, and I haven't heard that they have found that to be the case.
Yeah, that was something that was brought up for Whiteside. That was brought up, but actually the issues in Whiteside are not. It's not that so much. Although the dumping part, they are looking at the ordinance to enhance it and to be able to hold people accountable. I believe there's going to be, the fine will be higher if they're caught dumping. And you know, we're in a world of cameras, so that's very possible that that can happen to them. But when you look at the bigger picture, though, that is not the biggest issue that would be out there. You know, it's I'm sure it would happen, and it could happen, but you know, there's a lot of communities too that there's other ways of, they can't take care of their cat, there's other ways of finding help. And well, social media is a big one. You know, people rehome their animals all the time using it. That can be good, it can be bad, but they are using that. But in the grand scheme, I think that's of all the issues, I don't see that you know, somebody's going to pull up with a bunch of cats and dump them.
Right.
And I hope not.
Yeah, and looking at the new city ordinance too, like, it not only affects cats, it affects dogs as well. I do think there needs to be a lot of more humane changes to Polo's city animal ordinance. And I wish they would look more at Whiteside's animal ordinance and model Polo's more like Whiteside's. I would like to see that in the future, and I would be glad to have our group sit down with the city council and look into that, because
yeah, or to even have a virtual meeting like this and go over them. When Whiteside did a revamp on theirs, they were looking at all the animal issues that they were dealing with, and then they were trying to think ahead of the issues that were there as well. And that's what Polo would need to do. You know, you need to look at your community and what are the animal issues, and cater your ordinances and be humane. That's the key, is to be humane with those ordinances also. And there's some things in there. There's certainly some things in there that I have questions about, and we can always do another forum like this and go through those to inform Polo citizens, and so they know, because like the whole city council issue, you know, these things that came up, we never would have known without the paper, and we never would have known without social media that those issues were there. And I would hope the city council would take that as an opportunity to address those issues, and or you know, when you guys are present, to address those and come up with some positive change that's humane for Polo.
Exactly.
Yep, we are more than happy to sit down with the council and work some stuff out. More than happy. Just, you know, one of them needs to be a bit more approachable and a bit more respectful in their approach to us. because we just want to help Polo along with helping the cats and dogs, all animals. That's just to be humane and compassionate. That's our goal.
Right.
Yeah.
And,
Yep.
and our group has stepped up. We are physically doing things sometimes on a daily basis. And it's all about our community and our feral cats in Polo. I mean, we're working on ideas, we're working, talking to people. I get late night phone calls. People really want to see a humane, compassionate way to deal with a problem that has been going on for many, many years in Polo. So, we appreciate everybody's support, whether it's, a phone call, getting a hold of us, letting us know there's a cat that's now in the neighborhood that wasn't there before. We jump right in. And I want the council to at least tone it down with us. And we're providing a free service to them. And just we respect the positions that they hold. We would like that to come back. Just a little respect without the yelling and the screaming, and we can come up with a happy balance. We can.
Yes. Yep. Well, and then just to inform Polo citizens as far as Happy Tails, we are providing vet services. We are a charity. Our clinic is nonprofit, and so that's why the rabies vaccine, the microchip, is included in there. But also, this group, people have been reaching out. They can fund a spay and neuter, and so the group has been a bridge to the animal shelter to get them into the clinic. And when you do that, we also help with those community cats with them when they're referred by your group to give a microchip and a rabies vaccine as well, because we are supporting this project, and we want to get as many Polo cats as we can to the clinic to get them spay and neutered. And then this group also, if you get a unowned cat that needs medical issues, like Keller was one of them, and so we're happy to help, and that's just another resource that the group has. So everything's in place there to help the cats, and there's a great group here, and so in closing, they can get a hold of you by your Facebook page. You've got a phone number on there, and you've got an email on there. Well, and you can also message. You can also contact Happy Tails, and we'll get your message to the group as well. We're following the city council, and that's to be informative. And we're planning on having more of these in this technological environment, because of COVID. So we are going to be using this, and then once we get past all that, we can have in-person discussions, which is certainly what the shelter is always eager to have. So I am going to go ahead and close out on that.